Sex and Violence with Rebel Girl is presented by UFC Fight Pass. See the best that UFC Fight Pass has to offer on the Fight Pass 24/7 stream, offering a constant channel of historic fight action all day, all night. Tune in, sit back, and enjoy a network created by fans for fans. Step into our world. UFCFightPass.com.
Sex and violence. Sex and violence. Sex and violence. Sex and violence.
Hey guys, welcome back to Sex and Violence with Rebel Girl, presented by UFC Fight Pass, the show that interviews top-level MMA fighters and other experts in their fields about love, dating, romance, and that all-too-taboo subject, sex. I'm your host, Ashley Rebel Girl Evan Smith. Now let's talk about sex and violence.
What's happening, hot stuff?
What's up, guys? Ashley back in studio with you. I'm very, very excited about today's guest. But like always, let me tell you what I have going on. Maybe you guys want to check out the same events. Tomorrow, March 25th, is Up Next 6 at the Commerce Casino, and it's 80s night. I'm really excited because I've been doing in-cage and cage-side interviews. They're actually moving me to commentary as well, and there is a very special collaboration event. We've actually worked with Stop Bad Meds. It's a very cool PSA that brings awareness to the fact that there's fake pharmaceutical drugs being sold online. And if you go to this event, you're going to see a lot of people there to support this cause. Actually, Danny Trejo is headlining the cause. He's spearheading the cause. And so it's very cool. He actually signed a jacket of mine, and we will be raffling it off at the event tomorrow night at the Commerce Casino. And that goes to a good cause. So if you're there, buy a raffle ticket, say hi to me. If you want to go, the tickets are at upnextfighting.com, or you can check out their social media. It's at upnextfighting. Other than that, I'm just back in the gym, training, looking to make my return in summer. I'm so excited. I'm stressed. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot on my plate right now. And today was actually one of those days where, I'm like, why the hell am I doing a podcast and working for this fight organization? But at the end of the day, we fighters, we put so much into fighting, but we are so much more than who we are in the cage for those 5 to 25 minutes. And I've been working on building my career and my life post-fight life, which, don't worry guys, I'm going to be fighting for quite a few more years, but I feel like a lot of my fellow fighters, we fail to think about the future. And so as I get back into full fight camp and get ready to make my return after 2 years and an incredibly long injury layoff, I really need to prioritize. So I've said this before, I'm not sure if I'm going to pull back on the number of podcasts that we do, but I will be cranking them out regardless, whether it's 4 a month or 2 a month or 1 a month. It will depend on how busy I get in the next few months with fight camp. So keep that in mind, guys. Until the next podcast, you can support us by checking out some of our websites. My exclusive fan site is ashleyrebelgirl.com, and you can check out some photos and pictures and videos on there. It's kind of like OnlyFans, but better. It's called Fan Time. And if you want to support the show by going to our website, that's sexviolencewithrebelgirl.com. You can buy some merchandise. We've got t-shirts, hats, phone cases, all the stuff on there. And lastly, if you want to email us, that's sexandviolencepodcast@gmail.com. You can send guest suggestions or stories. The other day, somebody sent me another resume to be an intern. God, that's actually really, really what I need. Maybe one of you guys who wants to be an intern, if you are a tech person, That puts you at the top of my list. We are switching to full video, and so I'm still taking applications for that. When I say applications, that just means email sexandviolencepodcast@gmail. Tell me why you want to be the intern, why you want to work on the podcast, and yeah, I could really use you right now. So other than that, please rate and review the show. It really helps us out, puts us higher on the charts so more people see us. And that's really it, guys. I'm excited to talk to this guest. But before we do, let's talk to our sponsor. Okay, guys, let me tell you about our newest sponsor of Sex and Violence Podcast with Rebel Girl, EA Tax Resolutions. They are professionals that will help with tax issues and bookkeeping. Whether you're looking to settle your tax debt for less than you owe or have back taxes that you need to file, EA Tax Resolutions can help you out. Don't believe me? Check out their YouTube channel, EA Tax Resolutions, where they show exactly how they've helped clients in the past save thousands in taxes. Not only does EA Tax Resolutions help with tax issues, but with bookkeeping. Now, bookkeeping is commonly overlooked by small businesses, myself included, as not being the most important. However, this is very crucial come tax time. Instead of scrambling for receipts, all your information is organized and, most importantly, accurate. So, if you have a small business and you're looking for a bookkeeper, EA Tax Resolutions can help you out. And remember, if you want to learn more about EA Tax Resolutions, you can visit their YouTube channel, EA Tax Resolutions, or call them at their 800 number, 1-800-245-0596. Again, 1-800-245-0596. Or visit them at their website, eataxresolutions.com. Today's guest is a senior mindset coach. He's served 7 years in the FBI and is a certified crisis negotiator. He's become the premier mindset coach to hundreds of top-ranked athletes and teams in professional sports, high school sports, and college. He's been featured speaker for 150 plus coaching clinics, universities, and businesses. He was a NCAA D1 Wrestler, head wrestling coach at War Training Center from 2013 to 22, and coached 100 plus state placers, 50 plus All-Americans, and 9 national champions. Whew, what a roster. He created Wrestling Mindset, a wrestling-specific mindset training system that works with over 4,000 athletes a year across 20 plus sports. Amazing. He's been recognized by ESPN, UFC, the Joe Rogan Podcast, the Ariel Helwani MMA show. And today we talk about mindset coach versus sports psychologist, the power of the reset button, controlling thinking, feeling, then performance, benefits of emotional control, the art of overthinking and doubt, surrendering the outcome, focus solely on performance, win more minutes, win more moments, faith-based athletes, finding your why, mental elevator, going up or going down, and much more. Here is your guest, Mindset Mike. Mindset Mike, I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us. Let's just jump right into it, because as we talked about prior to this conversation, sometimes people ask you to come on for a second show. Let's jump right in, so hopefully we don't have to have you back on, okay?
Hey.
All right.
I'm good.
So without, taking up half the episode, because I'm sure your background is super crazy and interesting, how did you become a mindset coach? You were an FBI agent?
Investigative specialist.
Got it. And,
I'll explain what that is too.
Okay. And certified crisis negotiator turned mindset coach. So that in itself just sounds so interesting. How did you get to be where you're at right now?
Yeah. So long story short, I wrestled my whole life. I grew up on the East Coast. I guess you can call me, your typical New York Italian, and wrestled all the way through a top 10 Division I school in college. After I graduated, I was in the FBI. Did a lot of really great things. You name some of them. Investigative specialists. There's three types of people in the bureau that carry a badge: FBI police, FBI agents, and FBI investigative specialists. So essentially, I did national security surveillance. Get to follow bad guys around, and they never knew that I was there. I went to ghosting school, so it was very cool. That gave me a lot of experience, as well as, I had some auxiliary duties like a hostage negotiator, crisis negotiator. These skills and my experience led me to, when I transferred from DC to Houston, I opened up a wrestling academy. And in the second year, we were doing so well, we had 13 kids in our academy make the state finals in Texas. 9 should have won, but 5 kind of just shit the bed. And, for me, I was a criminology major, psychology minor, spent a lot of time in behavioral science when I was in the bureau. I was a certified behavioral science researcher, did a whole bunch of stuff. And I knew I gave the right advice. I knew that they were well-trained. Why did 5 of those kids just not perform? And I just, as a coach, I'm thinking to myself, ultimately people pay me as a club coach to win, right? Yes, they want me to mentor their kid, develop all these stuff, but they pay me to win. I would have bet my house that those kids would have won those matches, and they didn't. And I thought to myself, so what am I missing? This is back in 2013. And so I sought out resources for the wrestlers at the time. And I found a company that was just starting called Wrestling Mindset. And they were a program that was for wrestlers, by wrestlers, and it was wrestling specific mental training. And that was where the kids did not perform. They were given the right advice. This is what showed up. This is how good they were. This is how good they competed. And that gap was a performance thing that I got the advice that I gave. I didn't know what else I could do. So I utilized the company that I now work as a director in as a client. I hired them to work with my club team. Okay. And we saw such drastic results. And they saw that, for me, I really was able to understand the material, that they said, hey, do you want us to train you to do what we do? It seems like you already do a good job. You understand our material. Club's very successful. Would you like to join forces? So that was 2014. I started coaching for them. I had success immediately, realized I really liked it. Fast forward 2 years, I'm at a point in the bureau where I either want to transfer out of Houston or I'm going to leave the bureau. I was just unhappy, was unfulfilled. I felt like my work was lacking purpose. And I left the FBI in 2016 to be a mindset coach full time. And when I left where the company was, my role was to travel around the country to help build and grow the business.
Okay.
And so that's ultimately what I did. I went all around the country working with or learning from the top athletes, coaches, and businesses and teams around the country. And fast forward, 7 years later, the company has grown from 150 clients to 4,000 to 5,000 a year.
Wow.
And so very large scale, 7 coaches to 100 plus. And myself, I've obviously grown quite a bit, but that's how I got into it. And then I really just absolutely loved what I was doing and just deep dived. And that's what I eat, sleep, and breathe now. So I get to work with some of the top athletes and teams across the world, and that's why I'm here today.
I love it. That's an awesome story. And just to be clear, you don't just work with wrestlers and MMA athletes. You do all sports all across the board.
Right. So it started in wrestling, and one of the reasons I was willing to leave the bureau was because the goal was always to go to other sports. Wrestling itself wouldn't be enough for me to leave such a secure and it was my dream job. It's what I always wanted. So I work with, you see up there, both those national championship trophies are from Division III lacrosse. I get to work with sports and athletes all over, whether it be baseball, soccer, softball, archery. Helped the team win a college championship in archery. Never fired a bow in my life.
That's great. Yeah, I guess all across the board, it's the same. And also not just for athletes, but for businesses. You say you also work with businesses. It's not just these sports winning mindsets, the winning mindset overall, correct?
100%. Ultimately, everyone says that 90% of our success or failure is mental, but 100% of our training is physical. That doesn't matter whether it's MMA and it's on the mats or in the gym, or whether it's in the business and you're learning the skill that you're supposed to be doing, or the salesmanship. But realistically, results, good or bad, are a lot more here and here than they have to do with here and the books that are behind me.
Yeah, yeah, it seems kind of ass backwards, right? Like when we know that, and that's like such a, I don't know, even cliche. It's like, it's 80% mental, 90% mental. Everyone's always saying it, but we're not actually putting the time into the mental aspect. It's like you said, it's always 100% physical.
Let me put it to you in this perspective. Imagine in MMA, you trained 90% bottom jiu-jitsu.
Oh, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble. Only 10%, if at most, you do striking, wrestling, cage work, any of that stuff, right? 90%, you wouldn't be a very good fighter. No. Well, we can all agree that like physical skills are very, very important. But when it comes to competition day, when it comes to competition, when it comes to preparation, right? The execution and how well you do, the performance is so crucial here. It's doesn't matter how good you are physically. If this doesn't show up, it's the equivalent of driving a Ferrari with a Prius engine.
Yeah, yeah. That's why they say you can be, what do they call it? It's not the nicest term, but like a gym warrior. You know, what do they say? It's like a practice warrior, practice
room champion. You could be a
Yeah.
practice room champion. You could be a training room champion. You can be a world champion on Saturdays in sparring, but you can't make it happen when you get into the fight.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, essentially, I guess, why people call you, because they have the skills, but they need to put the mindset together. So that's interesting. Do you have a favorite type of athlete, like a favorite sport? Or let me actually elaborate on that question. Do you have a favorite type of personality that you enjoy working with? Because I'm thinking right off the bat, I'm like, does this type of mindset coaching work for everyone? And I'm thinking probably not, right?
I would say it's beneficial to everyone. Let me say two things. Before I answer the question, I'll backpedal a little bit. There's three types of athletes when it comes to how mindset training's a fit. Let's say 75% of athletes were losing or underperforming even in wins because mindset is the primary factor. Okay. Then there's the pause. 75% are losing or underperforming because of mindset. The next tier, they're above average, right? They're the people that are looking to close the gap on the top athletes. Let's take a podium. Top six, they're sixth, fifth, and fourth. They're looking to close the gap on third, second, and first. Okay. How do I close the gap using my own self-optimization? Then the other place, and this is where I spend most of my time, is the top tier athletes. How do I widen the gap? Right? Either the top three, how do I close? Like the smallest niche, how do I close? Or I am the best. We are the best team. We are the best individual. How do I widen the gap? So when it comes to saying, when you put it like that, every athlete applies. Like maybe even if mindset is not the reason you're losing, it's definitely something that you probably haven't systematically trained. That if you did, would obviously pay dividends. Like if you're strong, but you've never been to a gym with a trainer, and then I put you with one of the best trainers in the country, you're obviously going to get hella strong.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So mindset's no different. Now, when it comes to the favorite, you asked actually a very good question. There are sports that I enjoy working with most, but there's definitely like the personality is the fit. Because I can say I love wrestling. I'm built by wrestling. I've been in sport of wrestling year rounds for 28 years now.
Yep.
But the typical wrestler is not my favorite person. Wrestling may be my favorite type of sport to be in, but it's and essentially what the company does is we teach the wrestler's mindset to all these other sports. Okay. When it comes to personality, it's definitely got to be somebody that's growth oriented, somebody that is coachable, among the most important, emotional intelligence. That's why I personally like working with women.
Oh, wow.
Not only women,
okay.
But I really like working with women because their level of default emotional intelligence is higher than most. So particularly like smart women. If you can have an above average intelligence and you're a woman, the likelihood of like us doing really well together really quick is really high. You don't have to be a woman, just saying that, in general, emotional intelligence is something that like I really value because I can do a lot with that very quickly versus people that are not self-aware. I got to get you self-aware before we can even
you got to like
move.
Back, yeah. Makes sense. That does make sense. Because actually, as soon as you said that, I was like, "Ooh, women." I'm thinking about myself. I'm being, selfish, and I'm like, "Dude, I am an emotional person. I wonder if that is a hindrance, or if it's actually the beneficial because I'm more in touch with my emotions. I don't know."
Double-edged sword. So for women, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, no.
That's why women are always in their fields.
Yeah.
Right, because you have such a deeper connection than the average man does, and realistically, when you learn how to use that. So again, I would say like most women, and then like pretty smart and emotionally intelligent guys, those are like the ideal clients for me.
Okay.
Because the reality is that, like, and let's take women. If your emotions have a lot of play in what you do, if you can't control them, then they control you. When you teach someone who's very smart, like let's say a student, you tell a smart student what to study, they just study that and they do what they're told and they get it done, right? So when you, let's say, have a talented woman, right, or a talented, emotionally intelligent athlete, right, they're not losing because they're not good. That's hard, right? It's hard to coach through that. Like, you're just generally not good at this sport. But if they're good and you coach them through where to focus, ultimately, like, they'll funnel their focus in exactly what it needs to go. So their emotion, the hindrance of being, let's say, a woman who's really attached to her emotions because she lets them fly. Well, when she has emotional control and she can regulate those emotions, she can use them however she wants. She can use them however they want to the best of their ability. There's a picture I like.
Oh, nice. Yes, right? Yes, so, we've all seen that.
We've all seen it. When you focus on the right things, it's hard to do the wrong ones. When you focus on the wrong things, it's hard to do the right ones. So for someone that's emotionally intelligent, you tell them what to focus on, what not to focus on. You give them procedures, steps, and tools to be able to stay in that lane. It's almost like, it's like driving a car. If I teach you how to drive, I'm a good teacher of driving. Your hands are at 10 and 2. Your eyes are where they're supposed to be. Your car beeps if you swerve. How the hell do you get in a wreck?
Got it. Yeah.
You don't. And if you're a Ferrari, you can go really fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. All right. I get that. Okay. So how many athletes can you work with at a time? I know you said that there's 100 coaches, so I'm sure you guys divvy up your clients. But I'm just curious. You're very passionate about this, and I'm sure you love working with a lot of athletes, but do you kind of cap yourself at a limit?
I'm at a point in, like, my career growth where that's, let's find out what that number is, right? As a New Yorker, we like to hustle. So there's 24 hours in a day, and I can figure it out. So I would say that, like, I do my best work when I have, not an abundance of clients. I do my best work when, let's say, like, coaches will ask me, like, hey, how many people can I bring to a session? I'm like, well, you could bring 150. We're just not going to have the same sort of intimate conversation and results and vulnerability in their answers than if you bring 15. So I would say I've learned to take quality versus quantity. I mean, in the beginning years, we had to get numbers.
Yeah.
So yeah. I was taking as much as I could, So I can't give a number as to what, but I definitely limit my time so that I can maximize my results. Got it.
Yeah, because you see a lot of that with different professions in the MMA industry, right? Coaches, agents, managers, they take on too many people, and then you're wondering why you don't get that many sponsors or opportunities because, that phrase, how many balls can you juggle? It's not that many,
right.
So I'm interested in asking, I know you've worked with a lot of top athletes, but before we get into kind of like who, because I know people are probably wondering, who have you helped, kind of like what's your resume look like? What is the difference between a mindset coach or mental coach and a sports psychologist? I recently started working with one about 4 or 5 months ago, once every 2 weeks. And I don't know, it's like a sports therapist kind of, and this is my first time working with someone, and I don't have much to compare it to. So in your opinion, what's the difference?
Yeah. So the difference is we actually have a PDF that explains exactly that, because some people wonder, right? The sports psychology, a psychologist is a doctor. They are required to abide by particular rules. And sports psychology is definitely mental health first, sports second, right? Not that mental health isn't important, but a mindset coach, a mental performance coach, a mental skills coach, the goal is to proactively teach mental skills, and we have less restrictions versus a sports psychologist is more so a reactive mental health service that involves sports performance. So I think, like, I know for us, we've either worked in conjunction with or have referred people out, particularly to sports psychologists when there's any sort of like mental health issues. There are some great sports psychologists out there. Things that we can do that they can't. We can encourage aggression. I can tell my team that we're going to run through a motherfucker's face this weekend.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I have 5 different worksheets that specifically build aggressiveness. Not that other people don't, but as you know, with someone that was built in combat sports, like my favorite sports to coach, you know, just in general, like wrestling, MMA, jiu-jitsu, aggressiveness is kind of important,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, encouraging people to do harm, like the golden rule in combat sports. Hold on. Let me ask you something. What's the golden rule in life? Treat others as...
You would like to be treated.
Yeah, the golden rule in combat sports is treat others as you don't want to be treated.
Yeah.
Respectfully.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So, like, being able to encourage that sort of level of violence is a little different. And I would say, again, like, definitely built on proactive skills versus imagery, breathing techniques, meditation, a lot of that stuff. So it's definitely not good or bad. It's just what your needs are. And, you know, ultimately, I think everyone's a different fit. Everyone could benefit from both.
Yeah.
Realistically.
It's just the right tool for the job kind of situation.
Correct. And again, I think one's mental health focused, one's more performance focused. One is giving you techniques to manage your emotional health that relate to performance. Our job number 1 is to help you perform better. Secondarily, like, you know, give you emotional control and give you all the, like, for us, what makes us so different, why we have so many people, it's sports specific, baseball mindset, MMA mindset, wrestling mindset, soccer mindset, so sports specific mental training. So in our clients, for example, it's wrestlers talking to wrestlers, it's wrestlers talking to fighters, it's fighters talking to fighters. So that's a big difference versus oftentimes in sports psychologists. Like I saw one when I was in college. She was a volleyball player, and great advice. She gave me some great tools, and she knew how to be an athlete. Never made weight, never had someone club her in the face, never had somebody try to break her arm off, and never had to do any of those things simultaneously. So it's hard to relate, particularly in combat sports. I feel like a combat athlete, a combat coach, can definitely help coach other sports. I can't necessarily take all of the advice from a golfer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It makes sense. Okay. And so just because I'm curious, do you talk to your clients a certain number? Do you like talk weekly? Do you know, like how often do you talk to these clients of yours, and does it depend on kind of where they're at in their, you know, competition mode?
Yeah. I think it depends where they're at in their competition mode, depending on the person. So, you know, like when I would say for the most part, it's weekly, and it just depending on like the nature of the relationship. Sometimes like for an individual, we'll talk every other week. And then maybe like when it comes closer to competition, we'll talk every week. For a team, for example, you know, one of my teams, Northwestern Women's Lacrosse, they just beat the number 1 team in the country. They are a very, very busy group. So sometimes we'll talk twice in a week. Sometimes we won't talk for 2 weeks. In the off season, we might talk once or twice a month. In season, we're probably talking once a week. But I'm also talking to the coach almost every day.
Got it. So let's talk about some of the people that you have worked with, because I can't begin to name them all. But could you explain some of your success stories to us? And there's so many. I looked at your resume.
Yeah, thank you. So I think like the statistic that one of the things that I'm most proud of is top 15 individuals or teams beat the number 1 competitor in the country of the world. So at that given time, whether it be like whether it be in jiu-jitsu, whether it be in wrestling, whether it be in MMA, whether it be in other sports, you know, the number 1 person in the country of the world at that time I was able to be a part of that camp and help somebody beat. So that being said, there's stories like that, and there's also just some big names in general. Zhang Wei Li, Davison Figueiredo, when he beat Moreno, Mark Madsen when he beat Guida, who was the one I was just Amanda Levy when she beat Gabby Garcia.
Great one.
That was a big one. Yeah. I was working with Kendall Rusing in when she was getting ready who was a guest of yours, when she was getting ready for ADCC. And man, we had such a good camp. And she was telling me, she's like, I feel the butterflies, but like I'm so much more happy and excited to fight than like I've ever felt before. Like I'm never overwhelmed with stress or nerves, but like I've never felt so free and excited. And I believe had she not gotten hurt, we saw what ended up happening in the finals. I think Kendall would have dominated in the final and become an ADCC champion. But like her back injury, everything happens for a reason. Like that injury, everything happens for a reason. And, Kendall obviously like taking a different turn in the last 6 months of her life, building the business aspect of her career, not just the competitor. So those are good ones. Behind me, those 2 trophies are national championships from Rochester Institute of Technology. So they won back-to-back NCAA championships. Some other big names, people that probably wouldn't know necessarily in MMA, but in wrestling, I've worked with number 6 kids that were ranked number 1 in the country. Helped a couple kids in wrestling beat number 1 in the country. I currently live in San Diego. San Diego is where Poway High School is, and that's
great wrestling
10
school.
minutes from great wrestling school, top 10 in the country. So last 2 years, we've had back-to-back record-breaking years where we've set school, state, and national records at some of the tournaments we participated in.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of some of the other. Patricky Pipple when he won. So there's Patricio and Patricky. Patricky is the older brother. Patricky was the one who beat Peter Queally in Ireland. So let's talk about that real quick. Peter Queally, when they fought for the title, Peter Queally was Conor McGregor's best friend. Peter McQueely has never been finished in a fight. Peter McQueely beat Patricky the previous fight. And I helped Patricky prepare for that. Now imagine, most MMA fighters when they go to Brazil, it's a very not dangerous, what's the word? Hostile environment.
Yeah.
Like
if you're not from Brazil.
Correct. If you're not from Brazil, they're literally saying that like we want you to die, hope you die. People like berate you in the streets. So it was a very similar experience knowing what was going to come for Patricky. So being able to be a Brazilian in Ireland, like one of the things we did was we knew he'd get a lot of boos, like the crowd was going to shake in Dublin. The ground was going to shake from how loud the boos were. We just put headphones on and we had him come out to his own music. Didn't hear anything by the time he got out there and danced and did his thing. He was just so excited and happy to be there. And there's actually some pictures where some of the skills that we use to help him stay focused, you literally see through pictures, like him using it in his fight. He got poked in the eye, the fight almost got stopped.
Okay.
And, something we call a reset button to help reset your emotional energy and focus. His reset button was to touch his Pitbull Brothers tattoo, right? Put his hands up and take a deep breath. And you see this in the middle of the fight.
Okay.
So that was right after he almost ended the fight because of an eye poke.
Wow.
He knocked Peter Queally out like 45 seconds later.
Because he hit the reset button. He went back.
He hit that reset button. Otherwise, like his biggest fear was when he fought Peter Queally the first time, his biggest fear was that, when he fought Peter Queally the first time, it was medical stoppage.
Okay.
And then what almost happened? Medical stoppage.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't see.
Yeah.
Right. So we talked about that. Like, what are some of the worst case scenarios? And, there's certain things that I do with the fighters, like particularly and some of the teams the night before their fights. He did the same thing. And one of the things we talk about is addressing some of the biggest fears and worst things that can happen in the fight. That was one of the things.
Why do that? Why even put focus on the worst things that could happen? Everyone's always like, well, be positive, focus on the good, I mean, I truly believe in situational everything, situational drilling, situational motivation, situational visualization. I see the benefits in that, but I want, in your words, Mindset Mike, what is the benefit of putting yourself in a mentally compromised position?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a particular set of things that I do the night before a fight, and particularly, and when oftentimes like everyone's like, losing's not an option. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. What happens when you don't? Like, you convince yourself of something else, and you were either like lying to yourself or hyping yourself up to believe it when it doesn't go that way. How do you handle it?
Mm-hmm.
So the easiest way to deal with adversity in a moment is to pre-plan for it prior to, right? And not just in training, right? And not just through visualization. Again, if you address like some of the doubts, fears, worries, insecurities, worst case scenarios head on, what you can measure, you can manage. So when you bring it to the surface and you say, okay, what are some of the worst case scenarios? Well, how will I respond? What are some of my doubts, fears, worries, insecurities? What are reasons that will disprove each of those things? Because what happens is a lot of people are good until they're not. Right? They're good until something happens.
Yeah.
They're good until something goes wrong. They're good until something goes sideways.
Adversity.
When we address those adversity, and we just address those specific things ahead of time. And in almost every single fight I've been a part of, and almost every single like big camp, big something we mentioned happened pre-fight or during the fight, but they already talked about it. So instead of saying, I'm going to be fine, don't worry about it. We address it particularly like throughout the camp, but we address it the night before and talk about it. And again, I'm not going to give away what I do, but there's a very specific thing that I do that helps release those things. Vin Frey was somebody that, I always forget if it's Fry or Frey. Was it Frey or Fry?
Who's it?
Jin from Jin, who was in Invicta and then fought.
Jin Yu Frey, I think is her name.
It's Frey. So, and that's what I've always said, but sometimes I say Fry. So I worked with Jin, and Jin was a great example of someone who she had like a very high level degree. She's like insanely smart and insanely intelligent.
Cool.
When she was 0-2 in the UFC. I started working with her to where she won the next 2 or 3 straight. And one of the things that she said after she beat Ashley Yoder was, when you feel unburdened, you are free to be at your best. And those sort of things that we worry about subconsciously and consciously, those are burdens.
Yeah.
And whether they weigh on you heavy or they weigh on you a little bit, when something happens in a fight, it's right in front of your face. But you've been trying to avoid dealing with it because you just want to focus on the positive. So we don't just talk about what could go wrong. There's twofold, right? We address the things that could go wrong. We put those to the side. We do something with those with those insecurities, worries, and worst case scenarios. But then we also talk about, well, if we want to let go of this, we want to let go of these burdens, what do I want to focus on instead? So you bring it up, you address it, and then you replace those with what you want your athlete to focus on instead.
Okay. Now, are those replacements like the exact opposite? Like, for example, if you're worried about your cardio, do you then, say, actually, do you, I mean, I don't know, like, is it something that's, interchangeable? Is it just something completely different? Okay, this is what you're worried about, but these are your strong points. This is what you feel comfortable about. Like, what is it? How do you switch those?
Yeah. So there's 2 parts of the exercise. There's the part that addresses what we want to let go, and then there's the part that is completely separate. That like I have a strategic set of about 12 questions that I have them answer that directs their attention and energy, like a GPS, to these things that deal with like fun, excitement, opportunity. Why I have nothing to lose? How do I let it fly? Things like that.
Okay.
But the stuff that we want to let it go, part of the way we let it go is by just countering them and disproving them. Everyone tries to fight negative thoughts or they ignore them. But thoughts have hands, right? So like, don't fight negative thoughts, just reframe them. So what are some of my doubts, fears, or worries? Well, what if I get tired? Well, what I have them do is that they write them down and they disprove each of them. Well, I've been disciplined. My diet's dialed in. My cardio is fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get fatigued, but tired is a mindset. Like I know that I have better cardio than this person. So each one of those things that they worry, they have something that they disprove. And then they have a completely different set of questions that are part 2 of the activity where they then focus on a completely different set of circumstances.
That's a great word.
You got to bring it up.
Disprove, because everything that we create is a bunch of fucking lies. For in my head, honestly, it's just a bunch of bullshit. And then when I get in a more relaxed and a better state of mind, I'm like, what? That's not even true. It's like I'm lying to myself. It's like you get all worked up and you create these things that aren't even true. But if you say it enough to yourself, you start to fucking believe it. So that's great. Yeah. You're just saying things to disprove those negative thoughts. Okay.
Well, so one of the things, again, I can't speak for a sports psychologist, but I know that in a typical therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy involves something called thought stopping. Mm-hmm. Well, we do something similar to where we call predator mindset, right? There's right thoughts, there's predator thoughts. Mm-hmm. You can focus on the right thing, focus on the wrong thing. Ultimately, like the way you manage your thoughts determines how you manage your feelings. If you manage your thoughts, you can manage your feelings. You manage your feelings, you can manage your fighting. You manage your fighting, your performance, that helps determine the outcomes, right?
Yes.
So you can, I would say, better than disprove, counter them or reframe them. Because sometimes we can't necessarily disprove or counter something. We could definitely reframe them into a more productive way. So it's not as much good or bad thoughts. So like when I was on Sean O'Malley's podcast, one of the things we talked about was thoughts are just things. People make them as good or bad, as high or low. Mm-hmm. Thoughts are just things. They're situations that we have to respond to. If a girl shoots on you, she shoots a double leg. There's no good or bad double leg. You got to sprawl, mm-hmm. right? So there's no good or bad triangle. Like you have to get out. There's no good or bad guard. Like you have to frame posture and break guard, right? So going back to that double leg, there's no good or bad double leg. So there's no good or bad thought. It's just a situation that I respond to. So when you can, part of mindset training is when you can teach people to control the way that they think, then they can control the way that they feel. When they're controlled the way that they feel, then they can give 100% focus and effort on the way that they perform. And that's how you can get people performing at or above their potential. So there's that's a huge piece. There's obviously a lot more to it. Mm-hmm. But, being able to, I feel like one of the reasons I've been able to unlock a lot of people's extreme potential and just consistently rise up to those big occasions in part is, yes, without emotional control, it can't happen. But the second part of that exercise that we do the night before, it's congruent with a lot of like the core principles that like me personally that I teach, that when I can teach and make a weapon, not just a concept we talk about, right? Like I'm sure at some point we'll talk about how gratitude is a performance enhancing weapon. When mm-hmm. there's a handful of things that when you focus on this doesn't exist, right? So when we're more excited to compete, stress literally doesn't exist. So like thankfulness and stress does not coexist at the same time. So it's a ratio. How more excited are we for the opportunity versus how much am I stressed that I want to mess it up? So, working with Zhang Wei Li, I worked with her in Rose fight number 2, and I worked with her leading up to when she knocked out Joanna. We still touch base when she fought Carla. It was just in a completely different time zone that made it a little more difficult to spend regular time with each other. But when she was in Arizona at Fight Ready, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of high-level fighters, thanks to Henry and Captain. And Wei Li was one. And Wei Li, after the first Rose loss, felt like such a collapse, felt so much pressure, and then felt so much stress, and then therefore just completely did not enjoy fighting anymore. So I could see her in the training room. I'm like, you feel like it looks like you don't even want to be here. You work harder than everyone in the room, but you definitely, your heart's not in this, right? And you saw a difference in her leading into her Rose fight. Little thing that people don't know is that, her rehydration protocol was not exactly followed well. If you noticed in the later rounds of the Rose fight, we wore out. Mm-hmm. Did pretty well the first couple rounds. Like, I'm not going to blame anything on anything. Obviously, like, fighters got to do their job, but he ran out of steam in that fight. But her mindset, if you looked at how healthy and excited he was to fight, was the polar opposite of what happened post Rose. So that was Wei Li 2.0. Wei Li 3.0 was the one that knocked out Joanna and retired the best strawweight of all time. Wei Li 4.0 was what you saw against Carla, and man, she looks good right now.
Yeah. That's amazing. I do want to get into some different aspects of the mindset coaching. We talked briefly about kind of reframing thinking. And, we had a quick little conversation about what we might talk about, and gratitude came up, and, you mentioned it earlier. And so I don't know if you have categories of how you help your athletes, reframing the mind or whatever it is, but let's talk about the gratitude because like you said just now, I never think about it that way, but if you have two conflicting emotions, it's almost impossible to have them. You can't be stressed and excited, or you maybe you can a little bit, but not that much. So I'm thinking it's the same thing, right? You can't be super grateful to be where you're at or doing what you're doing and scared or something along those lines. So tell me about gratitude.
You're definitely on the right path. And like, here's the thing, high level athletes, you get the idea. Like you have a general understanding, like you're picking up what I'm putting down, but you don't have a GPS on how to get there.
Yeah. Mindset
coach is your GPS.
Got it. And
the skills that I give you are the turn-by-turn directions. And if you make a wrong turn, we can turn back around. It immediately reroutes you. That's you're getting what I'm saying. I will say, so, one of the things you mentioned as far as like the skills, the things that we teach, right? Think of mindset skills like muscles, right? Mental muscles. So confidence is a muscle. We can exercise it.
Okay.
It's not a concept that we talk about. Right, relaxing under pressure. That's a skill. We can exercise it. We can get stronger at it. Aggressiveness, staying in the present moment, self-knowledge, goal setting, motivation. Right, these are all skills.
Okay.
And that's why mindset training, mental skills kind of separates itself a little bit from the sports psychology. Sports psychology is definitely like the big part of the foundational parts of mental performance, but treating these different mental muscles like skills that you can build systematically, that's really something that separates. So you were asking, when it comes to gratitude, you said something before that begs me to repeat two of my favorite quotes. One is, we tell ourselves a lot of lies, right? And again, like hypnosis, your subconscious, like there's 500, like, how do I handle all these different things, right? Jordan Belfort in that movie Wolf on Wall Street, you see Leonardo DiCaprio say the only thing standing in between you and the life you want is the bullshit story that you keep telling yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Fast forward, right? Because it's always the story you're telling yourself. If you're someone or anyone that's listening, right? If you know who Brene Brown is, if you don't, look her up.
Yeah.
And vulnerability and gratitude, in my opinion, are two of the things that I've learned to weaponize that give me results that people just can't replicate.
Yeah.
And Brene Brown talks about the importance of that, right? So one of the reasons why we fail is because we fear failure. One of the reasons we feel failure is because we keep telling ourselves this story with doubt that we create. Doubt is something you create. Fear is normal. Fear propels you. Fear wakes you up. Tim Grover, the guy that mentored Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, he talks about how like overthinking and doubt is an art. It's an art, and you become like a world-class artist on overthinking. It is something that we create. Fear is an emotion that propels us. Overthinking is an act and an art. So fast forward to where you're talking about gratitude, right? Gratitude is also an art. You can't just talk about gratitude and be grateful. You can't just read about gratitude and write some shit down about what you're grateful for every morning and be grateful. People look at gratitude as thankfulness. Gratitude is not a thing. It's not a state of being when it comes to sports performance. In my opinion, gratitude is less about just being thankful and more about where's the opportunity. So the performance piece in gratitude is like, are you opportunity oriented or are you obligation oriented? When you're grateful for something, you make the most of it. When you see something as an opportunity, you make the most of it, good or bad. Like you're excited for it, you make the most of it. And even if something goes wrong, like not really that stressed about it.
Yeah.
So when gratitude's your dominant attitude, you don't really have a bad day. So I have to give credit where credit's due. I spent a lot of time studying the most successful team in college sports, which is Penn State wrestling. Okay. They've won 10 out of the last 12 national championships. 9 out of 11 of them were in a row. Okay. I'm sorry, 9 out of 12 were in a row. And they believe the mental edge of that team is gratitude. And I became friends with the family, some of the athletes, former athletes, the coaches, really dug in, and they didn't give me any trade secrets, just talked a lot about it. And, ultimately those are athletes that, particularly like when they compete, they're always talking about being thankful. They're always talking about gratitude. They're always talking about opportunity. But like, how does that translate to performance? When you watch them perform, they take a lot of chances. They score a lot of points. They don't win close unless they have absolutely no choice. They're having a lot of fun. Well, let's think of grateful people, right? Those are when you think of the individuals or athletes that we would consider as like ambassadors of gratitude, you don't see them have a lot of stress. They probably are a very fun person. When something bad happens in their life, it doesn't knock them off their horse. It just kind of wobbles them a little bit. They find their bearings. When you look at gratitude in sports performance, like I said, there's two types of athletes. The ones that are super excited for the opportunity in front of them, they find the opportunity, right? Or the ones that are afraid to mess it up. That balance is what determines like our level of being able to use gratitude as a weapon. So again, are you afraid to mess it up, or are you excited for the opportunity? Do you feel like I have to win, obligation, which by the way, you can't control outcomes. In a 3-round fight, when you get to fight again, when you get to fight again, there are judges that control whether or not you win or lose if you don't knock that girl out, right, or finish her. So you can be reckless and look for a finish and be within your control and probably lose, right? You can fight and hope that you convince the judges, or you can make the most out of your opportunity to showcase how good you are, the growth that you've made, and embrace how excited that you feel for getting back to fighting.
Yeah.
Right. And learning how to not just talk about those things, but systematically teach that sort of thought process. That's what allows people to pull massive upsets. That's what allows people to compete to the best of their ability. When you are excited for the opportunity, you can surrender the outcome of what might happen. Logically, like I can't control the judges. So and if I try to force a finish, I'm probably going to end up in bad position. So I'm going to be excited to fight hard and showcase my skills 15 seconds at a time. I'm going to do that over and over until the fight is over. Whether it's over in 45 seconds or whether it's over in 25 minutes, I am more excited to fight hard and show my growth than I am worried about whether or not I win or lose. I have surrendered to the fact that I can't control the judges. I've surrendered to the fact that I cannot control winning or losing. But I've completely committed to the process of controlling my effort, my attitude, and how aggressive I am. So there's a bunch of skills in and around that, but gratitude gets boiled down to that. Are you excited for what you get to do, or are you stressed about what you have to do? Are you excited for what you get to do, or are you worried about what might happen, all of the what ifs? Make sense?
Makes complete sense to me. Now, the winning mindset, you guys, with most athletes and work, can you take someone who goes into the fight or, competition, I don't want to lose, can you make them into I get to compete type person,
100%. So like, I would say as a company, we do a very good job of that. I would consider myself obviously one of the most experienced, but when it comes to this, I think I'm the number one guy in the country. If you could find anybody that's had more people beat number ones, I'd love to meet them. I want to learn from them.
That's so great. God, it's so great. I'm sorry to cut you off. It's just, there's so many, I have been in my sport for, MMA in general alone over a decade, and then wrestling as well as, as my background. My coach always used to tell me, don't go in there thinking I don't want to lose. Go in there thinking I want to win, and that's the difference in the mindset. And, I'm just listening to you talk right now, and it's so crazy how you could really change someone's whole life because you work so hard physically and you want to be on the right page mentally, but that's what's holding you back. And it's just like flipping that switch.
Also the least trained, but it's never been systematically trained. Think of how systematic your jiu-jitsu coaches are on how to break guard. Think of how systematic your striking is. Think of how completely not systematic our approach to mindset is. We've always just been told work really hard and let's hope that we win.
Yeah.
That for me, like as a coach, high school wrestlers 10 years ago, I'm like, putting in a year's worth of work and hoping you show up. Like, that's a complete waste of, selfishly, that's a waste of my time, and it breaks my heart seeing you not reach your potential.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you how to get the most out of you. And the only reason we lose is because that motherfucker showed that earned it. We talked about that on Sean O'Malley's podcast, talking about how, if someone's going to beat you, let them bleed and earn it. Like, they prove that they were better, but make them do that. So your coach, he said the right thing. Elite athletes, they know the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that, like, that's not how you feel.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I'm not too worried about winning and losing, but you're down 2 rounds, and like, or just in general, you feel like you have to win.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, I've been told, just go out there, have fun.
Yeah.
Relax.
Yeah.
Don't feel pressure.
Yeah.
Like this is amazing.
Easier
but
said than
that's
done,
not how
motherfucker.
that's not how you feel.
Yeah.
So I have to change the way you think in order to change the way you feel. Right? So I can give you all the right advice in the world, because, there wouldn't be any need for me if I could just tell you, go have fun, and you'll have fun. Go be grateful, and you'll go be grateful. Right? So that's the benefit. That's among the many benefits of having a mindset coach, because your coach said good advice. You know what's great advice? It's not I want to win, right? You have no control over winning in wrestling or in fighting. You have control over how much fun you have, the effort that you have, the attitude you have, and how aggressive you are, right? Effort given 100%. Attitude, I'm excited to fight. I'm going to give 100% no matter what. Aggressiveness, I'm willing to fail in order to succeed. Like, I'm willing to take chances, right? So wanting to win is wanting to do something you can't control. So even like your subconscious knows. So when you're down 5-0 in a wrestling match, like, your brain wants to win, but that feels very far away. But when you're focused on winning the next position, crushing the next 15 seconds, right? Like, showing how good you are, right? When you're focused on a different set of circumstances, it's not about the winning, because here's an easy way to get rid of winning and losing. How many times have you won but fought or wrestled like shit?
It's happened.
or like not been proud of your performance. How many times have you lost but wrestled or fought really well? Right? It's not about the winning or the losing, it's how well you perform. And if I could teach you how to focus on that and how to perform the best, the only person that's going to beat you, like, you are, like, earn the right to do it. But people are so stressed about the future that they can't control. What happens if I lose? What if this, instead of what can I do?
That's interesting. And earlier you used the word surrender, and you talked about gratitude. And, I'm very open on my podcast. I love, I'm very vulnerable. That's something that I'm not shy to be. And I'm very open about my sobriety. And I was going to AA for probably about 4 months before the pandemic started. And it's not something I actively do anymore, but I appreciate those 4 months and the foundation that it gave me in my sobriety. And not so much, the God aspect, because that's something that, is just not up my alley, but I'm agnostic, and I really loved the gratitude and the fact that you had to kind of surrender to this higher power, and just kind of admit, like, okay, you're not in control of what's going to happen. It sounds like a lot of the same vernacular that you've been using. Do you see a similar? Yeah.
Success leaves clues, right? So successful coaches say the right things. Successful programs do the right, like, say the right things, do the right things. So surrender the outcome of winning and losing, and commit to the process of blank, whatever that is for you. So like, one of the things that I feel like I've learned to do for particularly combat athletes, and even ball sports, like, that's why I love teaching bad bitches, or like making people bad bitches, because like, it's so awesome to see a group or an individual women just go out there and fuck somebody up. But neither here nor there. I'm just thinking
passionate about what you do.
Yeah.
I love it.
But like, one of the things that everyone tells in combat sports, you need to go out there and break that guy and break that girl. What the fuck does that look like? It's like me telling you to drive from California to New York and drive east. There's no direction. You have an idea that, like, the general direction is there. So like, surrender to the process, surrender the outcome of winning and losing, commit to the process of breaking your opponent. Commit to the process of winning the next 15 seconds. Commit to the process of giving 100% and being excited to fight. Commit to the process of having fun fighting hard. Whatever that process and that vernacular, that word is for you. So like, everybody, like, all the things that are successful, everyone says kind of like the right things.
Yeah.
The problem is like a lot of people give a lot of good advice. It's what's the process on how to get there. So I could tell you let go of winning and losing. Well, if I'm going to let go of that, what am I focused on instead? And that brings me back to the exercise that I do the night before. I'm going to let go of this so that we can focus on that. So I'll tell you off air because I don't want to give away my secrets. But it's something. Learning to surrender. I can't tell you how to do that. I have to teach you emotional control. I have to teach you other skills that like build upon that. I have to teach you if you're going to surrender winning and losing, like here's the past, here's the future. This is what you can control.
Yeah.
Right. So I have to teach you what you can control, what you can't control, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. What were the common themes of your best fights and your worst fights? I can't ask you to do something to surrender something unless you have something to focus on instead. So one of the reasons you didn't die with like surrender to this higher power is that like you don't subscribe to that. But I can get you to commit to the process of being the best version of you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Another thing you just said that is along the same lines of some of the AA stuff was you mentioned twice now, 15 seconds. So it sounds like part of the mindset training or maybe, in the competition is breaking down the fight or the competition, the game into smaller increments because it's less, it's easier to focus on those smaller increments or whatever the mindset is. But I'm thinking back to the AA thing. I'm like, yeah, they say one day at a time, one day at a time. They're doing some of the similar things, and it's probably, you studied it for so long, and that's probably why, AA has helped so many people change their lives. Same way you've helped so many people be able to flip the switch and close the gap. So I don't know, that's really exciting to me because that program, maybe the whole thing wasn't for me, but it really did change my entire life in a short period of time with some of the same values. And so I'm excited to hear more, Mike.
Mindset is mindset, whether it's football, basketball, MMA, or AA. AA is a lot more to do. I had a family member that got sober and spent time in AA I forget the home that she was in afterwards. What do they call it? Like sober living. Yeah. Went through the whole process. Okay. And doing a lot more therapy and mindset training than it was anything else. Yeah. They just have a process on how to break it down for them. So I'm going to speak to what you said with regards to the 15 seconds. So everyone can say one day at a time. Hey, take it one match at a time. Yeah. Hey, take it one round at a time. Yeah. That can happen. Not going to happen in 5 fucking minutes. 24 hours is also a very long time. Okay? 15 minutes in a fight is a long time. 6 minutes of a wrestling match is a long time. Yeah, it is. But like, let's break it down in wrestling. So there's 3 periods. Hey, 1 period at a time. A lot that can happen in 2 minutes. Okay. So 15 seconds or win the next position. So like have a what's next or a win the next mentality. Yeah. Like, oh, you scored? Great. Okay. I'm going to score next. I scored? Great. Cool. I'm going to score next. There is no good or bad. It's what happens next because the past is gone. Yeah. So when you can win the next 15 seconds and then focus on the next 15 seconds or, the next position, the next position, the next position. So you said your background's in wrestling. Let's relate it to, let's say I shoot and you sprawl. I'm completely extended. Okay. If my focus is on winning, I'm very far away from winning right now. If my focus is on scoring, I'm very far away from scoring. Let me bring the leg in. Reposition myself. Let me get the next position, and then the next position, and then the next position. So improving my position or like winning the next 15 seconds, the way that Jen said it in her fight, in one of her UFC interviews, he talked about how, it makes it a lot more manageable. So instead of trying to win a 15-minute fight or a 5-minute round, I just got to worry about winning the next 15 seconds and then the next 15 seconds and then the next 15 seconds. And you can apply that, obviously, like, the way that the company started was in like high school and college. And now we build, professional athletes. We work with the Olympic Training Center, businesses, all that stuff. Nice. And ultimately we're trying to help your performance in your sport, but we're teaching you life skills. The sport is just the vehicle. MMA is the vehicle for me to teach you how to build confidence. MMA is the vehicle for me to teach you how to build your ability to relax under pressure. So when you learn to win a fight 15 seconds at a time, win sparring 15 seconds at a time, then you're going to take your day 15 seconds at a time and then be able to move forward and then move forward.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, to me, totally makes sense. And I'm thinking right now, I'm wondering, because I know myself and I know that some things that I do mentally are, spiraling thoughts. And it seems like maybe the 15-second rule, maybe keeping you present, keeping the athletes present so that they don't think too far in the future, so that those thoughts don't spiral into somewhere that you can't control, but you can control this. So keeping you present. It's clicking for me right now.
You are very smart. That's exactly it. So when you compete 15 seconds at a time, you're present. When you're present, you can give 100%. Think of your focus as, so I was telling you this the other day and I couldn't think of the word. Your focus is finite. It's limited.
Okay.
So if 75% is on what happened before, only 25% is on total can be put to what I do next. What most people do is they think about the last time, what might happen instead of what can happen right in front of me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So anxiety, depression lives in the past. Anxiety lives in the future. But happiness and focus is in the present.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the idea is that if we can get you to play present in your sport, then you will learn to play present in your life. Thoughts, again, think of someone knocks on my door. You're going to go over to your door and see what's up or look at your ring bell. And you're going to respond to every single person that knocks on that door, right? If it's you and you're at my door, come on in. If it's somebody that I don't recognize, but they don't seem threatening, I'm going to peek the door open and be like, hey, can I help you? If it's someone that I don't want at my house, I'm going to tell them to get off my porch or else I'm going to come out there and I'm going to be either armed or beat the shit out of them.
Okay.
Right. So the point is that every thought requires a response. And what most people do, I would say 75% of people get their ass kicked by their thoughts, right? They try to fight their thoughts and they get their ass kicked.
Yeah.
The next 25%, I'm fine. Like, this is what you said earlier. Like, I don't want to think about anything bad. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm just going to focus on this. That's not realistic because that's just going to happen. Right. So a lot of people try to push them to the side. And then, the top 1% of people, right? Let me say it again. 75% of people get their butt kicked by their thoughts. The top 24%. I'm fine. The 1%ers, those are the ones that that can respond to these thoughts and put good into great and bad into manageable. Because again, you want good performances, thoughts make feelings make performances, or you want wins, right?
Yeah.
Thoughts make feelings make performances, performance make wins or losses. Control the way that you think if you want to control the way that you perform. So that's the idea, is that the spiraling thoughts, it's two things. We need to have emotional control so that you can have thought stopping and thought management. You need to be able to reset in those moments. And then you need to be able to identify, here are my common automatic negative thoughts. I pre-plan for, these are the things that I tend to happen. And these are the responses that I can give to myself.
That's so good. That's so good, because when you are aware of the really common ones, they're going to fucking come back. And when they come back, you're like, oh, I was ready for this thought, And I'm so interested in talk more about the reset button, because it sounds like Patricio's, one of the pit bulls. Patrici, it sounds like his was, touch his brother. That was his physical reset button. Is it always a physical reset button, or can it be mental? I think physical for me, just as a very physical person, as a fighter, that would click a physical. I mean, I could even see someone crazy that you work with, one of these fighters being like, all right, my physical is like a little slap in the face. And they're like, what's that guy doing? Oh, no worries. He's just setting his reset. And then he goes out and knocks the guy out.
Yeah. I mean, think about it like a video game. Something's going wrong in the video game. You pause the video game and you have the choice to either start over and completely wipe it out, or oof, I'm going to continue to move forward. Right. So the idea is that, we need to treat our energy on our focus and where our thoughts are going the same way. So thought comes in, pause, let me properly respond and refocus on the right thing. Think about this. Most people start off here. This happens. How quickly and efficiently can I get back to here? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And, so here's the thing. So with reset buttons, How many times has somebody told you in the middle of a fight or a wrestling match or whatever, hey, relax, it'll work?
Or an argument.
Hey, go out there, have fun.
Yeah.
Did you have fun? Hey, don't be stressed. Just go out there, have fun. But you're stressed as hell. Don't worry about winning and losing, but you're focused on winning and losing.
Yeah.
So how many people have told you, take a deep breath. You took a deep breath, but it didn't go away. Right? Or like, you do something and it doesn't change anything. It's because that physical gesture doesn't have a meaning.
Okay.
Right? So you need to pair a physical gesture with a productive thought. So what that means is that like, if I'm gonna say you and I are gonna work together and it says that your reset button is a deep breath, that means like thought comes in or something happens. Think of this as a filter, right? Thought comes in or something happens, pause, right? Let me like take a step back. Is this helping me or hurting me? Right? Do I want to release this? I'm sorry, do I want to reframe this or run with it? Right? So let me rephrase. Thought or event happens. Pause. I need to reframe this to be in the most productive way possible. Now I'm going to hit my reset button and refocus on the right thing.
Okay.
That's a very simple process. So think about it like this. Let's say you get let's say you lose a round, right? Thought comes in like, damn, man, I lost that first round. Like, what if I don't win the next one? Pause. Can't control the past. I'm just going to focus on doing really well in the next 15 seconds of the first round, right? Then you're going to hit your reset button. The difference is you're not just taking a deep breath. You're inhaling confidence. You're exhaling doubt. You're inhaling good stuff. You're exhaling bad stuff. Your physical gesture has to have something tangible associated with it. Otherwise, you're just inhaling oxygen.
Yeah.
Right? Like inhaling confidence, exhaling doubt. Inhaling the good stuff, exhaling the bad stuff. Taking off the bullshit, focus on the good shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so when you have a physical gesture and you pair it up with a productive response, right? That's like the equivalent of like, I'm going to take a deep breath and expect something to change. I'm going to be distracted by something, but I'm not going to refocus my brain on the road in front of me. Make sense?
It makes sense.
Kind of hard to swim like this.
For sure. To me, it sounds like you're taking whatever physical gesture it is for you and just associating it with something extremely positive to put you in a better mind state, whatever that is. That's awesome.
100%. It just allows you to win the moment, right? If I wanted you to compete 15 seconds at a time, if you win more moments, you win more minutes. You win more minutes, you win more rounds. You win more rounds, you win more fights. So if you win more mornings, you win more afternoons. You win more afternoons. Like if you win more hours, you win more days. You win more days, you win more weeks. You win more weeks, you win more months. You win more months, you win more years. But you're so focused on this or this that you can only control what's right in front of you.
I love that.
So,
and for someone like me, sorry, I was just going to say that's great.
No worries. I was just going to say, and I don't want you to say exactly what you were going to say, but I meant to say this before, and my ADD made me forget, is that all these things sound great, gratitude, being present, all these things. This only works when you have intentional exercises on a daily basis that you do to actually build them. Like you can't think or talk or read about these things. You have to do them. You can't talk about mindset. You must do mindset training. So if I want to weaponize gratitude, being present, resetting, I'm doing it every day. And I'm evaluating how good of a job I'm doing every day. And then I'm setting intentions the next day on how I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. No different than like yesterday, you didn't do good getting out of closed guard. So tomorrow, before practice or after practice, you're going to spend an extra 10 minutes breaking and passing so that you can work on X, Y, and Z. Well, the same thing goes for your mindset. And, when it comes to gratitude, there's very specific questions that I have my athletes answer on a daily basis. And Kendall can tell you that like these lists of like 7 questions, she screenshotted and sent to her and the other like 4 or 5 coaches that she has every day for like 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Every single day for her own accountability. But like it allows us to be more focused in practice, more present in practice. It allows us to, on a mindset and technical side, like grow quickly instead of just working hard and hoping we get where we want to be. I'm in a business of like, I want to be your insurance policy to where I want to know what I'm getting fight night. I don't want to hope that you did enough.
Yeah.
And, that's really like that only comes with making it a part of your everyday. Like I can't can't talk about bicep curls if I want bigger biceps. I should physically do the curls.
Yeah, it's just like everything else when you're an athlete, practice, practice, practice. And that's great. I'm glad you mentioned the fact that it's got to be a daily thing. And it sounds like you and, the winning mindset basically provide each athlete with the tools and the exercises, but they have to do the work. Just like a coach provides you with the skills, but you have to put the time in the gym. You have to do the road work. You got to cut the weight. So that's awesome. Love that. I'd love to touch on faith-based athletes because you and I were talking prior about gratitude, and it just came up organically. I said sometimes I see some of these religious, faith-based athletes, religious
100%.
Athletes, and I'm agnostic and I don't have that kind of driving force behind me. And I've actually had this thought, like, man, it's a silly thought, right? I'm like, I kind of wish I was religious so that I could have this,
I get it.
Oh, and I'm like, okay, well, does that put me at a disadvantage to this chick I'm fighting who's like fighting for God and a higher purpose and a higher power, whatever it is, can you talk about that a little bit? And is there any way for me to have that same motivation, that same drive, and be as successful as some of these faith-based athletes?
Yes, 100%. So I will go back to Penn State wrestling. Okay, Penn State wrestling. Like I said, they've won 9 out of the last 12. 9 out of 10 of them were in a row. And they almost exclusively recruit. I won't say exclusively. They heavily recruit faith-based athletes. Okay, when God is first, wrestling is not. Right. So what does that mean? Like, their identity is not connected to wrestling. Their identity is in something bigger than them. The typical people that we think of as like super deep in their faith, they also tend to be very grateful. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm talking real deal, not like people that talk about it but don't be about it.
Yeah.
Just like anything else in life. Right. So a lot of the principles that faith, not necessarily religion, but like faith, even like higher power, whatever you want to look at, spirituality, those principles that come from somebody that that higher power, God is first. Well, what that means is then it's like God, family, friends, school, career, listening to some fun thing that they do with their friends, fighting some fun thing that they do that they love. A lot of us, our identity is connected in winning. Identity is connected in how much money we make. Our identity is connected with how we look towards other people. Our identity is connected in something that we can't control. Can't control money, can't control outcomes. And what that does is that puts a lot of pressure, particularly in like bigger moments, right? So maybe you're a practice room champion, but like you get out there and compete, and all of a sudden you don't compete the same way you practice. You practice better than you compete, right? You hear, again, if you take Penn State, 90% of them, you hear in their interviews, fun. Literally, it sounds like they've been coached, but they're not. Fun, gratitude, process, opportunity, and God. Most of them will thank God first, and then we'll talk about all these other things. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, Penn State is the only Division I wrestling program in the entire country to have a staffed mindset coach that is solely directed to only their team. She, who is elderly, does not work with anyone else in the country. Only Penn State's wrestling team.
Wow.
And he travels with them everywhere, versus most teams don't even have access to, or don't purchase, or don't subscribe to that sort of thing. So
that's huge. That's
huge.
That's awesome. Huge. That's awesome. That's like a trailer for what you do. That's a commercial for what you do right there.
You would think, right? And we'll talk about why more Division I wrestling programs don't do that and keep trying to beat them at wrestling.
Budget?
They don't realize it has nothing to do with the budget is part. Ego is another part, right? They want to make sure they're doing it their way with their philosophy, and whatever, that's cool. But the team that's killing everyone does a particular set of things, and I would do my version of whatever that is.
Yeah.
Anyways, a lot of the best wrestlers, particularly, like, they're always talking about faith. Kyle Snyder, Helen Maroulis, Mensa, that just the woman that just won the Olympics. They're always talking about faith as like a big mental edge for them. And again, going back to like, what's your why? So Penn State, wrestling is a vehicle to glorify God with the gifts that he gave them. So wrestling was a gift they have worked hard from God. They've cultivated this gift, and they will be doing him a disservice to not be aggressive and relentless and try to score points and like be exciting to watch. Okay, so now that we understand like the faith-based perspective of like, when God is involved, how can I coach this to people? And why is this, if you read my Instagram post about upsets, why is it that having a clear and strong why that is bigger than you and not connected to winning so important, right? So, when there's a higher power, right, I'm surrendering. Like, I don't wrestle to win, I wrestle for God. I don't wrestle to be an NCAA champion. I want to glorify God and my family and showcase my hard work, things that are controllable and performance related. So if God is not it for you, you have to compete for something that's bigger than you, that's not connected to winning. Love of the sport, building your legacy, chasing some sort of history. So Matt Ramos just beat Spencer Lee, 3-time defending NCAA champion, biggest upset probably in college wrestling history. He literally said the night before, like they asked him in an interview, like, what's your why? My why is to take out Spencer Lee. I want to take out the most dominant wrestler in the NCAA. I want to make history. So it's bigger than him. It's not connected to winning. Even when he was losing in the match, even when he got a bad call, he was winning 8-0 against Spencer Lee earlier in the year, and Spencer pinned him. Right? Like, despite all those things, when you know your why, you can always find your way. When you know why, you can always figure out how. So people's whys are connected to things that they can't control. People's whys are connected to things that are not, that are self-induced, that are about them. They're about that are about other people, right? And when they do that, when things get difficult, when you know your why, you'll find your way. You can dig deep. So finding that thing that's bigger than you and not connected to winning, like I want to showcase how good I am, like I want to show my growth. I want to inspire young women. I want to show people that, like, whatever the case may be, has to be bigger than you. So 2021 National Championship Trophy, their why was they wanted to snap a 20-year winning streak for their opponent for a particular thing with regards to winning. And they wanted to, there were a bunch of 5th and 6th year seniors that stayed from COVID to help this team win a national championship, first one in school history. Right? So their why was bigger than winning. So when they were losing, they found a way to come back. When they were losing with a minute and a half left, they tied the game, went to double overtime, and found a way to beat a team that I don't know the last time that they beat them.
So when you find your why, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
When you find your why and it's bigger than winning, because that's the goal, and you start to lose and you're able to dig deeper, is that like taking some of the pressure off? Because because
you're competing for things that make you excited. You're excited to make history. You're excited to put on for your boys. You're excited to make your parents proud. You're excited to inspire other people versus stressed about winning or losing, versus stressed about money. You
reframed it, and into a positive way. Someone like me, who maybe, along the lines of the faith-based athletes, okay, I'm trying to find my why, my higher reason, my bigger reason. Okay, it's clicking for me for sure. I understand.
Without a why, we can't why is what overcomes adversity, not talent. Talent is what overcomes adversity, or why is what allows you to overcome adversity. One of the biggest things that I try to help build in people is that, like, they're the top 1% of people. They're not just the most talented, they're the most what I would call hard to kill, anti-fragile. Adversity is an advantage for them, right? You don't dig super deep when you don't have a very clear why, because winning doesn't necessarily allow you just to dig that deep, right? You have to be able to be resistant to adversity and then embrace and use it as an advantage. Kamaru Usman against Gilbert Burns gets rocked first round, almost loses, come back, makes a change, comes back round 2, right? You can be durable, you could be tough. Tony Ferguson is very durable, right? What Tony Ferguson is not is very adaptable, right? So yes, he can eat 400 punches, but he can't make the changes to make the adjustment in the fight that Kamaru Usman could do.
Yeah.
So when you're durable and adaptable, you become hard to kill. And when you're a top 1% talent, you can weather the adversity and you can make changes on the fly because emotionally you are connected. You can find something to dig deep for.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
the athletes that
you know
are
what I
most
mean?
the athletes that are most successful are the athletes that can adapt in the moment, because there's that phrase, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face or whatever it is.
100%.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm thinking, just off the top of my head, I'm like, yeah, everyone has a why. It's, I'm sure it's easy to help people find their why because they have many,
100%.
multiple, but it's more so helping them focus
Finding the
on
right
that.
one.
Oh,
Yes. Well, finding the right one.
okay.
Finding the right one. Because I could ask you what your why is, and most people that lack emotional intelligence will tell me, well, I was like, well, okay, why are you going to commit to give 100% for this fight? And they'll be like, I want to win. I want to win. You can't control winning. How many times have we seen a fighter have a great performance and still lose?
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
That's the easy. As a fighter, you want to surrender the outcome. Think of all the fighters that definitely won fights, like Jared Gordon, and did not win.
Yeah.
Right? Let's think of how many times we've seen the wrong guy or girl get their hand raised and we're like, what fight did you watch?
Yeah. Damn it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But finding the right why, and then you just have to understand, like, the foundation of literally everything in mindset training is being in alignment, right? There's 4 things that I believe an athlete needs to do what I can make them capable of doing. They need to be grateful, resilient, intentional, and totally committed, right? So grit, right? We'll talk about being gritty. Gritty to me means something else, and I can intentionally teach you, not just casually talk to you about those things, right? But like without why, there is no way. Because like your why is the concrete foundation to your house. And if it is not strong, it is not clear, your house is built on sand, your house is built on cracks. And most people are focused on the decor in their bedroom, not the foundation of their house and the framework to their home, and before they put the drywall and then have the bathroom that they want.
Makes sense, for sure. I'm thinking right now, I'm like, what if you have multiple whys? Do you need to narrow it down to one so that you don't become overwhelmed with your whys? I personally feel like I have at least 3 whys.
For sure you can.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. Like, you can't have 30, but like you can have, there's no number, but like you definitely have to have, like, narrow it down. Like, there's a lot like bigger pictures. You just make the picture narrow and measurable. When it's measurable, it can be managed. When it's measurable, like when it's tangible, we can handle it. Again, why do we bring up worst case scenarios the night before?
Yeah.
Because this way, when it happens, it doesn't like take us off
It's
guard.
not new. It's not.
It's not. Yeah. It's like, it's just a thing that I have to respond to. Not,
Yeah.
oh my God, what do I do? What do I do here? Right? It happens all the time in my fights and wrestling and in games, and by 5, down by 5. Like, we got to have the same energy and attitude. But when it comes to why, like, that is me building the foundation of your house. If you're not in like, one of the concepts under being grateful is being in alignment. Why I'm doing something has to align with what I love in order for me to figure out how to accomplish it. What, how.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. Now, I know it's getting kind of late in the podcast, but I wouldn't be doing my job if it didn't, circle back to, love, dating, romance, violence, all that stuff. So I guess the easiest question, just kind of get into it, is, do you see athletes struggling with their relationships and their competition schedule, or just competition in general, or just training? Like, what have you experienced working with athletes along the romance lines, and what are some things that you can help with? Or, it's kind of a weird question, is that even something
it's actually not weird at all.
Okay. Is that out of your realm, or is that something that you commonly deal with?
I've definitely had to play therapist before.
Okay.
So it's when you can control how you act, think, and feel in the training room, you're probably going to do a better job acting, thinking, and feeling in your relationship. On the vice versa, if I want you to reset in your UFC title fight, I gotta get you resetting in your fights on the way up there. If I want to get you resetting in your average fights, I gotta get you to reset during sparring. If I want you to reset during sparring, I gotta get you to reset during practices. I want you to reset during practices where you got like 12 hours in the day when you're home to be able to reset, right? Why do I say that? Because if you want to be like precise and focused in your fight and in your training, then other parts of your life can't be messy. If you are sloppy in one part of your life, then that will carry over into other parts. So usually fighters are very talented, but over the years, like their personal life has interfered, their choices, their habits has interfered with what they're able to accomplish. Yeah. So if your relationship is not contributing to your, how do I say this? If your relationship is not contributing, your personal life, your romantic life is not adding value, then it's taking away. Like there's only two buttons when you press an elevator, up or down, right? So the things that you're doing and what you're spending your time and emotional energy with are either helping or hurting you. Okay. It's like your thoughts.
Yeah.
So, if somebody struggles to manage their emotions in training, it's going to be no different. And one will help the other. But if we're struggling at home for whatever reason, and there's something ugly at home, it's going to probably carry over to what's going on in the training room. So I would say again, when you're able to maintain emotional control, and I could teach you that, and you learn how to do that in fighting, it's going to teach you how to do that in life. So if you were good at it, now you're great at it in life.
Yeah.
If you were bad at it, now you're decent at it. But we don't just talk sports, right? Like obviously each week, it's a combination of worksheet-based material, right? Or pen to paper material. And then also the mentorship from coach to athlete. So, hey, how'd your week go? Like, how did training go? What else is going on in your life? Like, if there's something going on, we're going to talk about it. I'm not here to give you therapy, but I'm going to give you like an educated third-party opinion for someone who objectively has your best interest at heart. And I'm going to say things that maybe other people in your circle won't, because you've hired me to help you perform your best. And I'm going to say shit, even if it hurts or you don't want to hear it. You could do with it what you want, but I'll tell you, this is going to help you win. It's going to not help you win. Makes sense?
Makes total sense. Yeah. And why not, most of these athletes high level athletes that you're working with, they're smart individuals. So it's not like they probably don't already learn tools and exercises from you that they go and apply into their relationships anyway. Have you actually had testimonials or experiences where some of your athletes were like, hey, man, this really helped out in my personal life or my romantic life as well?
All the time, and let's think like, I spend most of my time with like higher tier, either professional or even like college or high school athletes and teams. So like the younger you get, the more life skills they get, right? And the deeper that they can dive, being able to manage their performance in sports allows them to manage their performance in life at a younger age. So think of the trajectory when you're 18, 19, 22, 25, right? Like when the trajectory of what that helps, it's no different when you're in a professional setting. Maybe we're just 10 years later, but it's better late than never. So the goal is always like, I want to create the best version of you.
Yeah.
Not just make you win. The winning will be a byproduct of creating the best version of you, understanding like the 3 best fights and the 3 worst fights. Like, what does that look like? Well, the three best relationships and the 3 worst relationships, like, you could deduct the same reasoning. Like, what were the common themes of your best and worst relationships? No different than the common themes of your best and worst fights.
Yeah.
And learning how to be a better athlete is essentially learning how to be a better human. Except you fail a lot more often, but it's something fun. You don't have the same sort of necessarily consequences. Now, mind you, like fighting is your job. Fighting is what pays you. So there's a big difference between throw money and win money. I get that. But and bonus money. But, the idea is that, we can really, really learn how to optimize ourselves, because it's not just like good relationships. Like, if you want a good relationship, then you need to be good with you first.
Yeah.
There is no we without me.
That's true. And everybody, not everybody, but certain people, in my experience, they want to fix the relationship, but at the end of the day, it boils down to fixing what is wrong with you first. Makes a lot of sense.
100%. So, again, like people ultimately, like there is like therapy, like so many athletes like see me and then see a therapist too.
Yeah.
Because we talk about different things.
Yeah.
Right. So, there are a lot of times people will say like, sports are the reason I'm doing this, but like there's also like stuff I want to get better at in my life,
Yeah.
even whether it's like organizational priority management skills or just in general, like this carries over to this area of my life. And I want to learn how to do that in my life, not just win my fights and games.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Wow. Okay. I looked at the time. It's definitely time to get some of these fan questions going, but these are on the UFC Fight Pass platform and not everyone listening. Sometimes people listen on Spotify or iTunes. So those people, they're not going to follow us over there. Where can they find you on social media? Where can they find The Winning Mindset? Anything you want to plug right now. And also, guys, as always, all his links will be in the show notes, but tell us anyway, Mike.
Yeah. So you can follow me at best place to find me and my content is on Instagram at mindset_Mike. You can, and I'm obviously like on Facebook and stuff too, but I don't really spend that much time on there. That's the main place to find me. You want to find more about the company, Wrestling Mindset, right? That was like our original parent company. Winning Mindset is the is the overall foundation of the program. All the sports specific, but Wrestling Mindset is where we put the most content out. So wrestlingmindset.com, Wrestling Mindset on Instagram or Twitter. But ultimately, like if you're interested in mindset training, you're interested whether it be working with me or one of our coaches or just general thoughts, or you like the content, go through my Instagram. You could DM me there. That's the easiest thing that we can do in order for us to connect.
I love that. Even, whoever you are listening or watching this right now, I love it because you don't necessarily have to be an athlete to use your services. It's just, do you want to win in sports or life or, sounds like even love.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, guys, that is it for episode 135 with Mike Moor, aka Mindset Mike. I am ready to sign up right now. That was
my mind's blown.
Yeah,
I'm all quiet.
That was such an interesting and enlightening episode. Not just for me, I'm an athlete trying to get back in, but Zol over here is like, I learned some shit. What was your favorite part, Zol?
Just the moment to moment stuff.
Yeah,
literally seizing your moment, like taking the moment to the minute to the out. That shit was dope.
Yeah, I love this podcast because it's not just applicable for athletes. I really think that Mike and the Winning Mindset, his organization, whatever you're doing, you can apply it. It sounds like you can be an artist, or you can be a musician, or just someone who wants to be, a better human. It sounds awesome. So I'm so happy we had him on the show. And as always, guys, UFC Fight Pass is the world's premier combat sports streaming service with over 200 live events, the largest fight library in existence, original shows, and more. Sign up for 1 year and get half off for a limited time at UFCFightPass.com/sign up. Next week, I'm very excited. We have Hector Lombard. Now, this guy has done so much. I just thought I would just read a little blurb from the internet so I can, encapsulate everything he's done. Cuban and Australian professional mixed martial artist, bodybuilder, and former Olympic judoka who competes in the light heavyweight division of Eagle FC. I'm not sure if he's still active, but that is what... No, Zol's shaking his head no. I think he's retired, but we're not sure. We will find out next week when he's on the show. He's also competed in the middleweight and featherweight divisions, and he's best known for his tenure in the UFC and has also fought in Deep Pride and Bellator, where he was the inaugural Bellator middleweight champion. Now we will talk about all that stuff, but also we will find out about his love life and his experiences and his background like we always do. So stay tuned for that, guys. And then I tell you every single week, please help the show by going to our website, sending us an email with some guest suggestions. If you want to sponsor the show, that would be nice. That would be lovely. Send us an email. That's sexandviolencepodcast@gmail.com. And then you can always support my exclusive content site, that is ashleyrebelgirl.com. And lastly, please, please, please rate, review the show, or if you want to just send it to a friend, that is honestly the best, because if you think you know someone who may like the show, word of mouth, best marketing. Thank you guys so much, every week for tuning in, and also for your fan questions. Those are still on the UFC Fight Pass platform. You know where to go. The link is always in the show notes. Thank you so much. That's it. And a special thank you to DJ Zol. You can find him on social media at DJ Zol on Instagram, and Tomorrow Kids Studio at Tomorrow Kids Official on Instagram.
We have a new one to plug.
Oh shit, we got one more new one. What is that, Zol?
That's Zol Media Entertainment.
Oh, on Instagram, a new one, guys.
ZME
at
_INC.
One more time.
ZME _INC.
You get that, guys? That will be in the new show notes as well. So check that out. That's very exciting. We're all growing.
We just made it.
Yeah, we're adults now. We're businesses. That's it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this week's show. I love having different people on. Athletes are great, but, experts in their fields, it's so fun to talk and learn. And I learn every episode, because every person we talk to, I feel like I learn something from. So, guys, I tell you every week, but I'll tell you again, remember to be kind, be grateful. That's what the fuck we were talking about. Yeah, it's great. I tell you every week, be kind, be grateful, but don't take shit from anyone. I love you guys. I'll see you next week with a new guest and more tales of sex and violence. Bye.